Welcome to episode 9 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, joined by my good friends, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. And fellas, we got a lot to catch up on today, huh? It feels wild doing this show because we only have like 2 or 3 days in between recordings, and it feels like the mood goes from so high to so low within 36 hours. It's crazy how the storylines change between these 3 teams. But first of all, how was your guys' weekend? Which team do you think is the most interesting today?
Got to be Rangers, right, Johnny?
I think so.
Not just because of that fucking horrible hat you're wearing. I feel like
shout out Fanatics.
I love Fanatics. I don't love that hat. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Rangers. I kind of feel like they came out of this weekend like angry, but also feeling good about themselves. And I don't know if we're at the stage where 2 overtime losses is going to cut it for them, no matter how they got there. They should feel pissed about yesterday a little bit, but feeling good about the game Saturday, where Colorado was pumping shots on them left and right, and Nathan McKinnon clowned everybody on the ice with that OT winner. Like, I don't know. I want to hear what you guys have to say about that one.
Rupper, anything from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it matters who these games were against. And in some regard of just finding ways to get points. I think where it once was at home this year, you're looking for moral victories in some ways. I thought it was I thought it's been a great number of games here for the Rangers, kind of just starting to look different. I mean, I think we're seeing a different level of JT Miller. I think he can go across the board. I mean, I don't know if I've seen Laff shoot a puck like that in quite some time. So I think you're starting to see some things work out. I mean, the physicality from some defensemen. I just thought it was, like you said, it's doom or gloom one episode that we do, and the next one, I'm not going to say it's all puppies and rainbows now, but it feels a lot better in Ranger land for me.
Well, we do have a beautiful graphic to look at all 3 teams right now and how they're doing, thanks to our producer, Vic. And if you're audio only, we're looking at all 3 teams right now, their goals for, their goals against, their power play, their save percentage, and their PK. And a lot of these numbers do kind of look similar in most categories, like not very impressive in many for either team. But I'll ask you first, Arthur, what is one stat that stands out to you the most, either positive or negative here for either of those 3 teams?
I mean, while we're on the Rangers, that save percentage, man, you can certainly see if you. I know the debate is always online among Ranger fans is why did we give Igor Shesterkin $11.5 million? And I understand it's a big number and it's a long-term deal, and goalies don't necessarily live up to the whole life of it. But that's, between him and Jonathan Quick, and kudos to Quick for coming back after missing, what was it, a little over 2 weeks, and he was as lights out as he's been all season against Vegas. This is what's carrying the Rangers. And again, I want to give some props to Mike Sullivan for assessing what the positives and negatives were even before he came in and saying, okay, we are a team that relies on its goalie, which means we got to try to lighten the load for him a little bit. And obviously that save percentage, you're not really seeing high danger versus low danger. And it's just, it's obviously just straight percentage of pucks stopped, and they're obviously doing really well there. But I think that and the goals against being way down, this is a team that has recognized in a short space of time, it's got to be defense first. And we haven't thought about the Rangers like that in a long time. And we're only 30 games into Sullivan's tenure, and he's pretty much succeeded. I know the rest of it is frustrating, that when they go games and without scoring goals and seeing some lack of production from some of their top guys. But I think they've adopted what Sullivan was selling pretty quick. And I feel like that goes a little bit unnoticed. We know what kind of coach Mike Sullivan is, but the kind of the mountain that was in front of him was getting some of these guys that have never thought about being two-way players, some of their forwards, getting them to think about it more. It's worked. It's really worked. They shut down a lot of teams really well. I think that Avs game, Colorado had the puck a lot, but I think it was 30 low danger chances they had. I think out of their 45 or 46, that's essentially shutting down that Colorado team, not giving them a lot of high danger. So I feel like those are good numbers for the Rangers. If they can inch the power play back up, if they can inch their goals for back up and just start winning some games, they're not that far off, I guess. I mean, we go from, like we were saying, Last week we were talking Adam Fox is out, sell everything you can sell. And now here we are like, okay, I'm buying it. I think it's all right.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy hearing you speak about Sully, because I agree. But like, why? How come that philosophy wasn't there under Peter Laviolette? Like, well, I don't understand why. Because it was a couple years running. This is a moot point now because it's a new regime, new time. But it was a couple years in a row where the defensive metrics of this team were not good. I just don't understand. I mean, I think the first thing that would come to my mind if I had a world-class goaltender or a really good pair of goaltenders is let's protect that investment and let's play the right kind of hockey in front of them. And I think they are right now. I think that's given them a chance to, in some of these games. Yes, this non-scoring or scoring enough is frustrating, but they're taking care of the part that will give you a chance every night. So that's an area that the Rangers have been good. When we looked at that board, the one that kind of jumps out to me, I mean, probably the Devils' margins aren't great from their goals against per game and their goals for per game, and that's something that has certainly dropped or has changed. I hate to always go back to Jack-Hughes, but also we'll say when Pesci's been out also. So yeah, it's the power play. I remember at different times of this year, early on when they were on that run that they were on. The power play was one of the league best. The penalty kill was thriving. Everything has just gone down a couple clicks. And when you add all those things together, you got a struggling hockey club.
Well, we were kind of talking mostly Rangers here at the start, and I think we should stick with last night's game because that seems to be the one that's caused the most controversy this morning for right reasons too. And I do believe we have a voicemail from one of our listeners to lead us into this conversation from last night. So Vic, why don't we cue that one up? This is from Chris from Long Island.
Hey, morning, guys. Sending this in the day after the Rangers lost to the Vegas Golden Knights in overtime. I just want to say two things. One, Chris Lee, I really hope you start looking for work at McDonald's, dude, because that was just such a horrible ending to that game. The Borgen and the Howden 4-on-4, that missed call with a trip on Robertson in overtime. I mean, it really is. The second point I want to make is, what is everyone's obsession with Connor Sheary? I mean, look, I'm not Connor Sheary's biggest fan, but holy shit, am I going to go to bat for him right now? A guy that is a bottom six staple that you would probably want on any team. I'm sure he's a little bit older. Wasn't really going to play in the NHL this season from what I heard. And it was, kind of a last minute thing with Sullivan going to New York. And look, should he be playing in the top six every night? No, but with the depth, does it really call for it right now? Yeah, I'm totally okay with Connor Sheary, being mixed in with JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck. Look, there's precedent with Jimmy Vesey and Johnny Brodzinski being thrown up in roles like that. And, sure, is it savory for the fans? No, but I got to say, I like that. I like a line of Miller, Trocheck, and Sheary. So I just want to know what your guys' thoughts is on that.
May I take this one? Should we start with Sheary and then move into the call from last night?
Go right ahead.
I think with Sheary, the obsession with Ranger fans right now is who he's blocking, right? Because when the Rangers are fully healthy, you have Othman, Berard, and Perreault all down in Hartford. And why are you giving that ice time to Connor Sheary when one of those guys could be getting more opportunity? I think that's why Connor Sheary is looked at underneath the microscope, because Ranger fans are so, and rightfully so, they're so obsessed with prospects because we haven't seen a good one pan out in so long that they want the opportunity to see one of those three guys flourish. And Brett Berard and Connor Sheary, to me, are very similar player types, right? Like, they're guys who have speed, guys who you don't really rely on to produce offense, but guys who don't hurt you in any means either defensively. Berard obviously has a lot to learn in the defensive part of his game, but he's been getting there and been getting better. Also, they have guys who are out right now, so that's why both players are in the lineup. But to Chris's point, I think Sheary was great in the last two games. He was, probably the most noticeable forward outside of Alexis Lafreniere in last night's game against Vegas. Sheary had a couple of great chances. His speed was evident. He kills penalties. Like, he does a lot of the little things well. He just doesn't produce points. And that's why people think he's useless.
That breakaway, when he had that breakaway, I'm like, all I was thinking of is the pod. I'm like, Jesus, score for the pod. Score for the pod, just so everybody can have a meltdown. But no, you know what, Johnny, you bring up great points. And I just want to speak the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, like, in sports, we see it all the time where coaching staffs generally bring their assistants. I mean, heck, sometimes you see them, they bring their own medical staff, their own equipment trainers, maybe not right off the hop, but eventually you want what you know and what you're comfortable with. And think of it from the Mike Sullivan standpoint. He's going to a team he knew it was very familiar with because he coached in Pittsburgh, but you also want to have some staples that you know. He's got the coaching staff that he knows that was in place when he was in Pittsburgh, but he also he needed some player that he could rely on. And until you learn about your group, you want to be able to have that I guess comfort of knowing what you're going to get from a player. And we said this time and time again on the other episodes, maybe without saying it, that's an indictment on where some of the youth movement was at. The fact that we had to keep seeing him in those situations. So I hope Connor Sheary starts getting phased as far as his minutes and maybe bumping up in those roles, because that means that those kids are ready to take on more. But I think that's all part of it. I think it's about coming to an organization thinking, all right, give me a little bit of a security blanket where I can throw a guy out there, lines 1 through 4. I can put him out there on a power play if I need to. I can throw him out there in different situations. And yes, has he been incredible? No. But if he would have popped in a couple of these goals along the way, I think we'd be thinking something quite different about him. It's just he hasn't necessarily been able to do that, and this team hasn't been able to do that.
Arthur, anything?
Yeah, I mean, he's a pro, and coaches like pros, and I understand you can't really. He's in the top 6 now, and that can enrage fans and prospect watchers more because Gabe Perreault is lighting it up again in Hartford since he's been sent back down. He seems like on the offensive side, he's too good for that league. So what do you do with him? Can you put him into the situation with the Rangers where you take out Sheary, who's penalty killer, guy who's out there who understands when you're trying to preserve a lead, which is not a situation you're going to see Gabe Perreault in just yet.
Yeah,
I get it. I think there's less of an argument to make in favor of Connor Sheary when you've got Cooley playing on the third line, and that's at 5-on-5. That's where you want him right now because that line has really been effective on the physical side of things and on the forechecking side of things. So when you have a vacancy in the top 6 and you've got Sheary or you've got Johnny Brodzinski up there, harder to argue that Gabe Perreault might not be better suited learning with that group. And if that's all the time he's going to get with a little power play time, why not have him up here, especially if you're still not producing as well as you'd like to. When it comes to guys like Othman or even Berard at the beginning of the season, I'm with you, Rupper, 100%. It's more of a shot at those guys than it is a compliment to Connor Sheary. It's
100%.
Whether it's spoken or unspoken to those guys, you haven't done enough to take the spot away from this guy who comes into camp and has been an NHLer for a dozen years and knows how to earn a paycheck. You see it in this sport, you see it in lots of other sports. This is feeding your family time for a guy like Connor Sheary, who's got kids. Yeah. And you've got versus when you've got a 19, 20, 21-year-old guy who's, first round pick, bonus baby, got the world at his feet and thinks like, all right, I'm just going to waltz in here and take the spot from this Plug. And it's like, Plug wants it more than you, man. And I think that was the issue at the beginning of the season. Now, maybe you see a little bit less of it. And I think as we go through some of these games here, if he's staying in that top 6 role and Perreault is still lighting it up in Hartford, I think you have less of an argument to keep Perreault from that spot. But for now, it's what they want to go with. And I think that goal against the Avs was a huge load off his back to at least show, okay, yeah, I'm going to be in this spot and I better produce. So good for Connor Sheary to maybe justify and quiet the haters for at least a few days.
I will say, too, this dates back to the game against Dallas. Like, Connor Sheary makes a hell of a play on the PK. The PK is actually ending. He has the puck on his stick with a chance to clear it, but knows that Soucy's coming out of the box. He hits Soucy with the stretch pass. Yeah. Soucy feeds Laba, and then Soucy follows it up for that rebound goal. Like, that's all the heads up from Connor Sheary in his own zone to make that play. And again, like, the one thing someone tweeted at me last night saying, like, would you rather have Sheary over Radish in the lineup? And I said, at least Sheary adds speed to the lineup. Like, Sheary and Brodzinski, whether you think those two guys have offensive skill or not, like, they're going to skate their balls off. Johnny Brodzinski last night had a hell of a back check from the offensive goal line on Jack Eichel to make sure Eichel couldn't get a shot off on a clear 2-on-1. Like Johnny, his feet were moving the entire way back. And, those are like the little things that are intangible, right? Like, you can control your effort and compete level. And Sheary and Brodzinski, you're never going to question those things from those two guys. So, it's, it's like the weird thing. Like, I mean, Arthur, you definitely know, like Ranger fans always look for some sort of punching bag, but Connor Sheary is not the reason they're losing games. Is he the reason they're winning games? Probably not, but he's definitely a big reason why they got a point against Colorado. That's a hell of an individual play he made.
And I think, sorry, the indictment,
you're good.
When you're starting to look at a Connor Sheary and say, what, this guy's taking up space in the lineup, he's not scoring. It's because your top guys aren't doing enough to make Connor Sheary be the role player that he's supposed to be. Alexis Lafreniere had a great game yesterday. He hasn't had a great game in about 3 weeks before that. If Alexis Lafreniere is 2023-24 Alexis Lafreniere, no one gives a shit what Connor Sheary's doing. Or if JT Miller is Vancouver Canucks JT Miller, again, Connor Sheary is out there to fill a role, play in all different situations, play his 12, 13, 14 minutes, and you don't notice him. He's kind of like, to me, he's like a second, third pair defenseman. The less you notice Connor Sheary, the better it is for everybody, because that means your big boys are doing what they need to do. And that outside of Artemi Panarin and probably Mika Zibanejad, it just hasn't been the case.
Yeah. Hey, Shepard, you want to get into the call?
Before we get to the call, can we just real quick talk and it's going to be hard because we don't have the clip actually of the play, but the OT winner by the Faceoff.
Sick.
It's so how much was left? Like 10 seconds, 7 seconds? What was it? 15 when the Faceoff started? It was somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I'd say let's give or take, say 15 seconds. It's very interesting because when you see the lineup the way it is, look at this.
Vic's got it. So 16.9 seconds.
Vic's the man, dude. He's the man. So what do you have here? So you got Jack Eichel on the inner arc, right? And he's gonna sit here, and in that position, there's 16.9 seconds left. You are sitting there thinking to yourself, Jack Eichel's looking up and he's like, that is a shit ton of ice in front of me. Anything happens, and he probably said beforehand, clean win, I'm out, we're gone. And the problem here is the Rangers, I think, with 16.9 left, are thinking, what are we trying to run and execute here to win the game? With no thought of what happens if we lose this draw.
Panarin's not thinking for a second about defense.
But see, this is the thing, and I don't know if we – but this is my point, though. All Artemi needs to do is just take a step inside the circle. Just take a step inside the circle here. And you'd think that he would anyways in case the puck's sitting there so he can knock it back to Robertson. And he doesn't do that. He starts retreating. And him skating backwards and Jack Eichel skating forward, you're done. You're toast. And this is just a beautiful finish by Eichel. This is what makes Jack Eichel great. But it's just at that part was a little bit frustrating for me. And I don't want to be nitpicky, but it's like you're sitting there in that moment. You've got to know when you're going out there for a face-off, even when it's in an offensive zone, you always have to have your defensive responsibilities in check too. So you're going to go out there and you're going to run through, all right, this is what we want to do offensively, but if this goes wrong, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to do. And that's just one of them. Like, I'm not expecting Artemi Panarin to like throw a hit there. I'm just saying, just get in his way for a second, make him break stride. Then Robertson has no problem getting back, or even Robertson in that area, maybe cheating more to the middle of the circle just because there's so much ice available for Jack Eichel.
Yeah. I mean, listen, again, it's back-to-back days of world-class players making world-class plays.
Yeah.
True. You could all say, I mean, anyone could say what they want about the Rangers 3-on-3, like Nathan McKinnon and Jack Eichel. Good luck stopping those two guys in 3-on-3. I don't care who you are.
It is the part where you miss Adam Fox the most too, because Adam Fox, if he's out there, he's the smartest player on the ice, and he's going to do exactly what Rupper is saying. He's not gonna ignore Jack Eichel. He knows exactly who he's out against. He probably even knows that Artemi Panarin is not going to do what you said he should do, because he knows Artemi Panarin's tendencies. Matthew Robertson is not an experienced overtime guy. So I think that's where you miss Fox the most. And certainly the Will Borgen play, I'm not going to criticize him. Nathan McKinnon, that move he made, he could do that to anybody. He's amazing. Yeah. But maybe you don't get at Will Borgen in the regular OT rotation. So those that's where you want an Adam Fox. But what Chris was talking about in the call, forget the overtime, the trip on Matthew Robertson. That's a penalty all day, especially with open ice like that. I can't believe they didn't call it. That's complete bullshit. Totally agree. The 4-on-4 thing, the matching minors at the end of regulation, and I get that there was one penalty called in that entire game.
Yeah.
So the refs
bullshit
were
penalty too.
Yeah, another one where there was a trip should have been called before that. I totally agree. But the matching minors, like saying it completely throws you off when it's 6-on-5 versus 5-on-4. You guys can come at me. Mike Sullivan will disagree with me too because he was hot about it. But Rangers didn't do a whole lot to try to extend that lead in the third period. They had a great second. Third period, I think they had 3 scoring chances, 1 high danger chance. They were just trying to defend and preserve that 1-goal lead. If you're winning by a goal, getting down to the end when the other team is going to pull a goalie, you're leaving it too much to chance. You're leaving it to a point shot that goes off 2 shins and goes in. You're leaving it to this too many variables that are out of your control. So I feel like it's a bad call. I get it. You don't really need to call anything, but the fact that you do, everyone should be like, oh God, now we're fucked. Because I don't think they just played well enough in that third period to deserve to kind of coast the final up a goal.
I mean, I can take this one. You want me to say something here, Rupper? I couldn't disagree more. And I think Rupper will probably allude to it. Like, when you give coincidental penalties like that in that situation, you are literally favoring Vegas. Like, they're down 1, they're going to pull their goalie, they're going to have a 5-on-4, but it's even strength, so the Rangers can't even ice the puck. If they ice the puck, it's an ice.
You can't ice it right back down. 5-on-6 either. What's the difference?
But 5-on-6, there's less room. There's less room.
That it's different strategy.
But it's like killing a 4-on-3 versus a 5-on-4. It's that much more significant. And late in the game, with the way Vegas moved the puck too on their first power play, like those guys were zipping it around. But you saw, I think it was JT Miller who had a chance to ice it, but like almost hesitated because he knew he couldn't send the puck all the way down without it coming back to be a defensive zone faceoff. Like, you got to gain it's. Anyone could shake their head and say, like, it's not that big of a difference, but that is you're giving a power play. That's what you're doing. You're not really gifting a 6-on-5 is not a gift, but a 5-on-4 to me is a gift. I think it is.
Yeah. I just think that if I'm on, I remember just having games where 6-on-5, you'd almost get in situations where if you're on the team that gets a 6-on-5, it's like, oh, I know we see those being scored, but it's like a rugby scrum. There's never clean looks. That's just adding that one extra body adds so much more. I just find that in that game too, the way that those guys have been going at it all game, and to do it then, I think the idea is originally the knee jerk, and anytime a coincidental is called is, hey, enough of this crap. We're going to call them both. Yeah. And that's going to keep it even moving forward. But in that moment, that's not even. In a moment where you're going to have a pulled goaltender, it's a power play. You're giving them a power play. And I know the argument is, well, 6-on-5 is quote unquote a power play too, but it's a dirty power play.
Yeah,
there's no ice available. It's scrumming all over the ice. There's a lot more luck involved, I believe, in 6-on-5 goals than there is on 5-on-4 goals.
Also, one thing just to point out too, good friend Eric Hornick, Arthur, I know you know him, Rupper. I'm not sure if you know Eric, but he's a great statistician for the Islanders. He tweeted out last night one of the rules. Apparently, the officials got it wrong too. Since they were coincidentals, it should have been 3-on-3 for overtime until the whistle was blown. Then players would come out like a fight. So they ended up playing, 4-on-4 for about 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes, 44 seconds, because there was no whistle. But the rule says the penalty times are removed from the penalty clock at the end of the third period, and the teams begin overtime playing 3-on-3. At first whistle following the expiration of the penalties, the penalized players are released from the penalty box. And while you might say, well, Vegas scored a 3-on-3 anyway, what does it matter? Vegas apparently was 1-6 in 3-on-3 overtime going into that game. So maybe that could have benefited the Rangers. Not saying that was the biggest reason, but just something to point out again that the officials pretty much got wrong last night. So,
you get an actual rule wrong, then you're in trouble with the league office, and that should absolutely happen. But that's a lot of people.
I'll circle back on what I was going to say too, and I'm a big believer in this. You earn your bounces, and then there was hang on mode. It was hang on mode, and you can't play that way. You can't play that way. So I agree that part of it, Arthur. Like you can't you can't hope for the best and then expect everything to go your way. You got to kind of force that a little bit. But I was a little frustrated with that call.
So last thing for the Rangers, just to put a bow on this conversation, kind of tying it all back to what we started talking about. Can you feel good about back-to-back overtime losses against Colorado and Vegas? The Rangers take 6 of 8 points, in 4 tough games. They played 4 games in 6 days. But again, because the bar has been so low, I think it's fair to say you can feel good. And with the Rangers right now, like for me, not many teams are going to outplay Colorado. If you can maintain them, if you can slow them down, you're not going to shut down Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. You're not going to make them go completely silent. But if you can take away a lot of their – I was actually just going to get to that. The Islanders are one of the few teams that did. And again, like, credit to them. They played a hell of a game against Colorado. But the Rangers, just to show that they can compete and win a game against a team that good right now with how they've been for the last – let's say 14 months of regular season play, like that to me is encouraging. And the way they've played over the last 4 games, if they can put out that consistent effort night in, night out, that's a team you can be proud of. And I think that's honestly what fans have been searching for since last season, because the team that we've seen on the ice is a team that you don't really enjoy watching and a team that you don't really have a lot of pride in. But over the last 4 games, and there have been, other games this season too, but the last 4 games in a row without Adam Fox, I think all fans would say, man, that was a fun game to watch. They really competed their balls off. Even if they got outplayed, they competed. And I think that's like a big thing to carry with the Rangers here as they continue to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I will right. Throw in.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
0 for 8 on the power play with the 5-forward thing.
0 for 9.
0 for 9. Free Scott Morrow. Give him a shot. I saw Eric Gustafson's name floating around on the rumor mill because he's in the minors with Detroit. Fuck that. Like this, Robertson and Morrow had a great night last night. Mm-hmm. Metrics were really good for them. I thought they looked really good. Robertson obviously got some love playing there in key moments in overtime. Give the kid a try on the power play. Can't get any worse, right?
How nasty is the 5-forward Vegas power play though? Like whether it's results or not.
You have
Marner about the tempo. How about the tempo? You put music to that shit. It's just like pop, 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 shot, pop, pop, pop. Like they move it so nice. So I think that in theory, you're hoping for something of that, but the Rangers have not been able to find it that way for sure.
I just don't think any of the forwards can quarterback it. And again, people are saying Panarin can learn on the fly, but you're also then taking a strength away from Panarin. Panarin's so good on his strong side flank. Like, why would you take that away? I don't know. I asked Mike Sullivan about it after the game on Saturday, and he said, like, if we want to use a defenseman, he actually gave me like a 2.5 minute response. It was wild. It was a long answer, probably the longest answer I've ever gotten from a coach. But he was basically saying, if we do decide to go with that, Scott Morrow is our guy. Like, based on what he brings,
they're going to have to.
And
that's coming.
Yeah. All right. Shall we talk Devils or Islanders? I mean, the Islanders, I feel like, didn't give us a whole lot to talk about with the Florida game. The Devils,
Florida game is. Let's hit Islanders quick because they did have, they did split over the weekend on their dad's trip. And that Cal Ritchie goal was sweet, man.
Yeah,
that was a nice play. I love this kid. I think he's going to change some things. When JG Pageau is pretty close to coming back. Jonathan Drouin was out for the weekend. He's pretty close to coming back. I think the way that they're situated now with what Cal Ritchie's shown, it's a great little power play goal. He's playing really good 5-on-5. And just he strikes me as a really, really smart kid. Like he's using his hockey IQ a lot for a 20-year-old. That's really good to see because they obviously have the smartest 18-year-old in the league too, in Schaefer. Mm-hmm. So Ritchie being at center, Pageau coming back. I think, and they're struggling to score the last 9 games. They haven't really produced as much as they did before. They're still generating chances, but they really improved their defense too. I think you keep Ritchie at center when Pageau comes back, and you move Barzal to Horvat's wing because I think Emil Heineman is kind of taken a step back from his hot start. That Horvat-Heineman connection hasn't quite worked as well lately. Barzal's been playing really well. Barzal's more effective on the wing than he is as a center. So I'd be curious to see if Patrick Waugh decides to go to that this coming week. If tomorrow they've got Vegas coming in. If Pageau's back, They like what they're seeing from they got a new identity-ish fourth line with Cizikas, who's been really rejuvenated. Your boy Gatcomb's played really well. Kyle McLean's kind of found a role again. So if you keep that fourth line together, I'd like to see Horvat and Barzal together and let Ritchie cook a little bit in that middle six. They've got some options. They've got so much more depth than they've had in the last couple of years. I think that's a big key for them. So it was two pretty ugly games over the weekend in Florida, but Sorokin really saved them in Tampa. They were obviously playing a real decimated Lightning team. But I like what I see from Cal Ritchie, and I feel like you got to run with that in their situation. They're still in that, they're still Matthew Darche and Patrick Roy still kind of figuring out what they have, what they want to keep. So just run with it. Let the kid go a little bit and see what he's got.
I did like what Patrick Roy said after the game last night. He did say, I felt like it was an experience for our guys. I think we're going to learn a lot from a game like this, because I didn't think the Islanders played poorly. Again, I was watching it on my computer from the MSG press box, so I wasn't like completely dialed into the TV like I normally am. But I thought after that first goal, I think it was Balinskis who scored from the point. Like, the Islanders were off to a good start, but a goal like that, a little deflating, right? Like, you want to see Riddick get that one. I know there's a screen in front, but it wasn't necessarily like four bodies in front where you got to fight through it. I think it was just two bodies in a net front battle, and it's a fluttered shot from the blue line, like from the boards of the blue line. And, with the way the Islanders had started, that definitely deflated them a little bit. And I thought Florida kind of controlled the game from there on, just for the most part. The Islanders had a pretty decent push in the second. I thought the back end of the second, but the goals that Florida scored were just mental mistakes, I'd say. Like Shabanov on the second goal, Petrie makes a good read. Shabanov isn't ready to move that puck in the slot. They turn it over. Florida bang back to the net. And then the third one, like, that's just Schaefer and D'Angelo miscommunicating, and they both go to the same guy. I think D'Angelo Schaefer should have handed his guy off to D'Angelo, and they shouldn't have crisscrossed like they did. Both guys went to the puck carrier, and that left open Seth Jones. Like, those are just, again, mental mistakes. Nothing crazy, though. Again, like, I watched the Islanders, and even in a game last night where it says they were outplayed, I'm not sitting there saying, like, man, they looked horrible. They just made a couple mistakes that ended up in the back of their net. Like, I'm very encouraged by what I see from the Islanders this year.
Maybe you'll wear a shitty Islanders hat for the next show.
If they give me one for free, I will.
I'm sure they
one like
could.
That? And put the
this is for the Winter Classic. This is for the Winter Classic.
Fisherman with the logo. Yeah, I'll find you one. I know some people.
What do you think? It was just, is the schedule catching up to him in that game a little bit too?
Yeah.
I know Arthur mentioned, like, just look a little. They didn't have like that. This is a team we've talked about. They've got push. They got gumption. Didn't seem like they had a ton of push as that game went on. I don't know.
Yeah, they won a couple really ugly ones against Tampa this week that were real, kind of digging deep to get some points. The Colorado game was probably the best game they played all year. You're going to come back to earth, and obviously, and I think Florida, the game that they had the day before, the ridiculous 7-6 game notwithstanding.
Yeah.
When they get in a situation like that and they're up a goal, they're up 2 goals, their DNA, their championship DNA kicks in no matter who they got on the ice, and they'll clamp down on you, especially a tired team. So I'm not too worried about the Islanders. They come back home now, got another, they got Vegas, Tampa comes back in again. So, they're right back in it. And
why are they playing Tampa so much? Yeah. What's up with that?
Quirk of the schedule, I guess. Probably a good time to play Tampa 3 times in 10 days. When
Vasilevsky now too.
Out. Yeah. I just feel like the Islanders, aside from being a fun watch a lot of nights, they're not out of it. They've had, I think they're multi-goal losses this year. They've had 6 or 7, but nothing where they're just like, they're done by the second period. Maybe a couple early in the season, but they fight. They fight for ice. They turn things around at 2-0 yesterday. You could have said, okay, it's not their night, whatever. Barzal comes right back with that goal, and they're back in it at least until the end of the third. So, yeah, I agree with you, Rupper. I think the schedule caught up to them a little bit, and it's gonna be that way. I think for a lot of teams, like every 5th, 6th game, you're gonna see teams just kind of lay eggs like that because of the way the schedule is, because of the injury stuff that everybody's dealing with. So, I don't think they're gonna be too affected by that one game.
You just asked or said, I don't think they're out of it. Which they're not. But looking at the standings, as we sit here,
they're in it.
the New Jersey Devils, points percentage-wise, are 7th in the Metro, 1 point up on the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we talk about how fast things can change right now in the league. Wow. Like you went from, I mean, days-wise, I wish I could look back right now and figure out how many days have passed from the Devils going from first place to 7th place in this division. It's pretty incredible. So to your point, yes, Islanders are in the thick of it. They're in the hunt here. Rangers as well. Devils are as well, but just in a different spot right now.
Well, that's a good kicking off point for the Devils. Let's do it.
I thought the Devils are, again, like they played a hell of a game in Boston. Couldn't score. A couple bad turnovers. Like, it's almost like the story we were talking about with the Rangers, right? Like they're playing well enough to win, but they're not scoring. Like that's how it feels with Jersey right now. I mean, I didn't watch that game in Boston and say to myself, wow, this team sucks. You know, like they just couldn't score goals. Like I thought they dominated for the most part in that game.
I think there's a key difference for the Devils right now, which is they're not getting the saves. I mean, we saw that graphic before. They're below league average or right around league average save percentage. Can't have that when you're not scoring. I mean, it's obviously a stark difference with the other two teams, but those two teams are pretty far above the average in the league. But 896 isn't going to cut it when you don't have Jack-Hughes. And I feel like the mental energy, like you can read it on their bench when they have a push and they don't score, and then they get scored on. The air just fucking goes right out of that bench, and it happens to everybody. I mean, this is the situation they're in. They're completely in one right now. The back-to-back shutouts last week. I don't think they played particularly well in either of those games. You go up to Boston, have a good push initially. They get that goal late in the first to kind of give them some life, and then nothing happens for them after that. Despite a lot of attempts, a lot of puck possession. So yeah, it just feels like they just get down on themselves so easily, and it shouldn't be happening with a team that is a little bit more veteran now than it used to be. A lot of those guys are into their 8th, 9th, 10th years there, and like Hischier and Bratt, and Hischier's played great, but you want to see them kind of grab the reins a little bit more and pump the brakes on the woe is me shit, because it just seems like it's really infecting everybody right now. I don't know what you think, Rupper, but I just that's the way I see them, that they're just hanging heads as soon as they get behind.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Because you see an initial, like they're not going into these games with no shows, and it's they're playing, and like Johnny, you mentioned it, like they look good through stretches. They're getting hit with this unable to score, this scoring drought right now, and I think they're fragile. So as soon as you're going to go and give this effort, and then as soon as the game feels like it's almost here we go again, and then they're just not playing full 60. And as cliche as that is to say, it has to look a certain way. And you may not get the results still, but I think to this point, they just seem fragile. It's like I'm not inside that room. It feels like watching them, they're literally counting down the days till either Jack gets back, a trade happens, something like I don't know what it is. It just seems like we're gonna go and put this effort forward, but then as soon as things start coming at us, the opponents starting grabbing some momentum, they just can't get it back. They just can't get it back, and it's like you can almost feel it in the game, like they're done. And so that it's a slippery place to be. I don't know what the answer is, how to get out of it. But you got to fight through these moments, and right now I think they're just a fragile group. And when they're not scoring, it doesn't take much to make them feel like here we go again.
I will say though, just to back up Jake Allen in that game against Boston, like we talked about Nico Hischier, the first goal, Nico Hischier, it's like a 3-on-2 rush. Hischier's the high forward coming back, to make it a 3-on-3 defensively for the Devils, and he's caught puck watching. And it's a backdoor tap in for Fraser Minton. Like that can't happen for Nico Hischier, a guy who we talk about to be a Selke candidate, right? Like if you're not scoring, you can't let and it was probably the end of a long shift. Like I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in that sense, but you can't let the frustration of not scoring seep into your defense too. And the second goal, that Boston scored, Brendan Dillon throws a puck right into the middle of the ice, and credit to Elias Lindholm and Morgan Geekie. Lindholm makes a fucking sick play. That puck is put right on his tape. Lindholm makes a sick pass cross seam to Geekie, who's one of the hottest goal scorers in the NHL right now, and Geekie's got a wide open net to score in. And Arthur, I know you're familiar with the stats, like what that Valley always talks about, right? Like the cross seam passes. Guys in the NHL, like they're scoring goals more often than not now when a puck goes from east to west like that across the slot. Like they just shoot it as quick as they can. And Chris Kreider actually alluded to it in his interview this summer with Empty Netters. Like he said, he spoke to Valaket like in depth about how he can help his goal scoring. And essentially, anytime he caught a pass from one side of the ice on the other side of the ice, he was shooting it, not aiming it, not picking a corner, just shooting it because goalies can't react quick enough. And that's how I felt with the 2 goals that I saw. Like, I don't know if you can ask your goalie to make a save on a backdoor tap in, and I don't know if you can ask your goalie to make a save on a cross slot pass when the puck's turned over like that. So the Devils fans who are going to blame Jake Allen and Markstrom, I didn't see the Vegas game, so I don't know how those goals looked, full transparency, but this was a game the Devils should have won, in my opinion, against Boston.
They've had a few of those lately.
Yeah. But we also, if you guys don't have a comment on that, we do have a voicemail that can give us maybe a little bit more in-depth feelings on the pulse of the Devils fan base right now. So Vic, why don't we cue that one up from no name? This is anonymous.
What's just answering Arthur's question about where the Devil fans are right now. We're still here, just depressed, getting ready for Gavin McKenna, I guess, because even when other Metro teams lose, at least they collect points in overtime. The Devils can't score. It's over. Season's over. I guess my question is Gavin McKenna going to play on the wing or in the center for the New Jersey Devils next season? Peace.
Oh, man. Can we get a wellness check on this poor guy? This is terrible.
Tough.
I feel awful now for criticizing them.
Is Gavin McKenna going to solve your problems too?
It sure isn't over. Jack is going to be, Jack is skating. I know he's got a finger injury, so he can skate as much as he wants. Pesce is skating. There is a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the injury stuff. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I know nothing is assured, but it feels like Quinn Hughes dropping a Fitzy in his little post-game chat the other day. And I understand that the families know each other and his brothers have played for Fitzy for a long time, but I can't recall unless Rupper, unless you can think of a situation where a guy was a teammate with another team's GM. I don't know if that's the way you want to be talking about somebody else's GM, especially to calm the rumor mill a little bit. But I definitely took note of that, and I feel like with some of the reports that they've talked, Fitzy and Jim Rutherford about Quinn Hughes. Kind of tells me once it comes out that you hear that they've talked, it probably means they've talked quite a bit, because those things are not, you're not hearing about the first contact, you're hearing about the most recent one. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel for the Devils. I still feel like Rupper and I said a few shows ago, this Quinn Hughes trade is going to happen this season. It's going to be the Devils. It's going to be a big return going the other way, but this is the place where he wants to be. And that's going to change a lot, even within this season. Unless they're in last place, 15 points out of the playoffs when it happens, that's going to be a huge, a seismic shift in their division and for that franchise. So I understand the depression right now, but I feel like there's going to be an end to it at some point.
Yeah, I do think that I was laughing too at that mentioning Fitzy by nickname. I'll say this, just for the fans that maybe don't know, and I know a lot that do know, Quinn Hughes has no trade protection. And the reason why we have to remember this is I think initially thinking that New Jersey has a bunch of leverage in this situation, the Hughes brothers in some regard, the Hughes family having leverage in this situation, and they do, because I think it's inevitable that these guys will eventually be playing together. If that's now, which I agree with you, Arthur, I think it does happen this season. The kicker in it all is that this is not a Matthew Tkachuk situation where he kind of orchestrated that out of Calgary to Florida and could do that because he kind of had the organization. It was a different time frame, and it was a different there was different details where he could do that. Well, in this case, if Vancouver doesn't get what they want from New Jersey, then they could trade him anywhere. They could trade him anywhere. They could trade him to Detroit's got a bunch of assets, a bunch of prospects, a bunch of things. And here's the one thing that keeps coming up is, for me, the knee jerk is whether it's Nemitz, whether it's Mercer. I mean, that's something that those two names come up to me when I'm just spitballing and thinking what a potential trade can look like. And that doesn't stop there. There's more than that. And I'm thinking to myself, like Vancouver, you start looking at what they are and who they have and what their needs are. They're pretty well set on right D. Like, so they're not going to just make this trade with the Devils because Quinn wants to go play with his brothers. They don't have to do that because Quinn is not having the leverage of lifting his no movement clause or doing anything from that standpoint. The other thing, they need center iceman. Dawson Mercer is not one. He's better on the wing. I don't think he's revered as a centerman. Can he play center for a time being? Yeah, he can. But I don't think that he is revered as being a full-time center. So where does it go from there? What do they want? I think that the crazy part and the tough part, I think, for Fitzy and for the Devils is there is some leverage here with Vancouver. And there's some other really hungry teams. Like, I sit there and I think to myself, Detroit should be all over this situation, even if it's just Quinn this year and next year. And figuring out next year, like, is there an extension there? Does he want to ultimately become a New Jersey Devil? But you can cross that bridge later. This is a franchise that hasn't made the postseason in a number of years. They have to. I think Steve Yzerman's, not to talk about the Detroit Red Wings too much, but I think his job's on the line this year. I think they've got to make it into the playoffs. And so I don't think it's a slam dunk it's New Jersey this year. I think there's a very good chance. But that's just something in there in regards to you got to make it worth Vancouver's while. And right now, I mean, I don't know what they're asking, but I'm sure they're asking a lot.
I'll tell you what. I know Devils fans aren't too high on their team right now because they've lost 5 in a row. They got 4 games this week. That fourth game, you guys know who they're playing?
Vancouver Canucks.
The Vancouver Canucks are at the Rock at 12:30 on Sunday afternoon. Okay. You got no reason to watch the Jets. You got no reason to watch the Giants. Buy fucking tickets. Go to the Prudential Center, and every time Quinn Hughes has the puck, you go nuts. Chant, we want Quinn. We want Quinn. Let Fitz hear it.
We need someone to check how heavy of a road trip is Quinn packing for. Is it 1 bag? Is it 2 bags? Is it 3 bags? I'd be paying attention. He should just fuck with his teammates. Just come to the flight with like 4 giant suitcases and just nothing in them. Just load them on. Oh,
but seriously, Rupper, if you're a Devils fan right now, are you not showing up to that game and letting Quinn hear it how bad you want him, letting Fitz hear it how bad you want him? Like, I can't think of a better time for these two teams to be playing in New Jersey than Sunday afternoon.
Stand on your feet every time he touches the puck, on your feet, screaming. You know what that does too? It puts the pressure on the Devils as well.
That's what I'm saying. Put the pressure on the Devils. That's what I'm saying.
They don't need any more pressure than they already have, but it's fun for the fans to get involved. It's very interesting. I don't know where it goes. I don't know what it looks like, but it's funny. Again, we said this a bunch of times, how quickly things can change, how quickly a week and a half ago, Vancouver is listening for veteran players not named Quinn Hughes, and all of a sudden you're starting to hear these conversations happen. Something's brewing, and I hope it happens soon because I think the Devils need a shot in the arm here for sure.
Mm-hmm. And until then, like, the conversation's the same, right, Arthur? Like, what can we really say about the Devils that isn't already obvious?
Yeah, I mean, the insiders are all kind of saying that they're talking to a lot of teams. They've talked to Nashville about Steven Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly. They probably talked to St. Louis about Braden Shen. Problem there is prices are super high at the moment. You know, I forget who reported it, but saying Ryan O'Reilly, the cost for Ryan O'Reilly is a first and a top level prospect, which is insane on its own that you'd give up a first and one of your best prospects for a 34-year-old guy with a year left on his deal. No matter if it's Ryan O'Reilly, who's probably worth acquiring if you can make the cost fit. But the Devils have to, Tom Fitzgerald's got to weigh whatever short-term acquisition he'd want to make to shore up their forward group and maybe boost their scoring a little bit with this looming Quinn Hughes deal that, again, not a slam dunk. and maybe you get him for nothing in 2 years. But I feel like he's in a tough spot. I think I said this last show too, that you want to give your team a boost. It's going to cost you just exactly what you got to be able to afford that, and also save some of your assets for whatever's going to come next. Because this, like we were saying, this Quinn Hughes deal feels like, Detroit could be a possibility. People are talking about Philly. I don't really think that one makes sense. Detroit, I think, makes the most sense in terms of the assets that they can give up. Even like you said, Rupper, knowing that it would just be a year plus with this guy, and knowing that he'd walk for nothing at the end of 27. So yeah, I just don't know, other than being patient and waiting out either a deal or a return to health for some of your guys, what they can do right now in Jersey.
Yeah. So before, or I guess until we record our next episode, the Islanders host the Golden Knights and the Ducks. The Devils are on the road against Ottawa. They're home against Tampa, and the Rangers just have one game in Chicago on Wednesday. We did want to hear a story, Upper, but we'll save it for next show on Friday, because it actually will lead in to Kreider and Trouba making their return on Monday against the Rangers. We want to hear how the money on the board stuff works. So that's something we'll have to look forward to next week. But yeah, so 2 games each for the Islanders and Devils, just 1 for the Rangers before Friday's show. Don't forget to get your voicemails in for Friday's show. We typically record Monday afternoons. You'll be listening to this show on Tuesday, and then we record on Fridays, and you usually hear those shows on Friday. And as a reminder, our show is presented by Novig, the future of sports betting. On Novig, you play against other real users, not the house, and it's the only commission-free exchange, so you keep every dollar you win. You'll get better odds than traditional sportsbooks, meaning you're 10 times more likely to win in the long run. Choose the best odds or offer your own. Trade Novig coins for fun or Novig cash to win real prizes. Sign up with code DailyFaceoff in all caps, daily space Faceoff, to get $50 in Novig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase. Available in most states. You must be 21 or older to play, with no purchase necessary. Right now, Novig actually has Team USA hockey roster selections available. Either yes or no. You can select if Adam Fox will make it. You can select if Jeremy Swayman will be the starter, and you can actually select if Chris Kreider will be selected to Team USA, which I think is actually more of a conversation than it isn't. So go check out Novig right now and make your pick for Team USA. That's going to wrap up episode 9 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. We will talk to you guys on Friday. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.